Hello and welcome to the Alpine Valley School podcast. I'm your host, Mark Gallivan. This is episode 32 of the podcast. You can find show notes for this episode at alpinevalleyschool.com/podcast/EP32 for episode 32. When students find themselves free from classrooms and curriculum, they are sometimes left to grapple with a new adversary, boredom. If no one is telling them what to do, they have to figure it out for themselves, and that experience can be challenging. However, boredom can also be an invitation. It can be an opportunity for expansion, for investigation, for exploration, and stepping outside of one's comfort zone. I asked several Alpine Valley School graduates about their experiences with boredom. Here is what they had to say in response to the question, do students at Alpine Valley School ever get bored?
Yeah, I think students get bored. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a time to reflect and think deeply, even if it's as simple as, why am I bored? What can I do to prevent this boredom? What can I do to prevent it in the future? I think it's a good thing to be bored at times.
I got bored once, and so I graduated. Usually by the time you get bored with all that freedom, it means that you're ready to move on to the next step. I didn't get bored for a long time, and when I did get bored, it pushed me. So I felt it, and when I started to get bored, I went out and I got myself an internship with a local designer, so I just had to get my little ducks in a row and go do it, and then before I knew it, I had an internship, which led to jobs, which has led to opportunities through my school and everything else. When I got bored, I created stuff because that is what kids do when they're bored. And boredom is actually really good for you, I think. Having spare time as a kid is developmentally useful. Whenever I was bored, I didn't have anybody else to look to entertain me. I had to figure it out myself. And because of that, I think I spent my time in much more valuable ways.
Oh, absolutely. I used to get bored all the time. And I think, in a way, I guess boredom is kind of the mother of invention at Alpine Valley. I think that's certainly why I learned how to play the piano and why I learned how to play the guitar. Boredom is not fun. It's what pushes you to kind of get out of your comfort zone and try something you wouldn't normally try because you have nothing to do.
I think that boredom occurs no matter what you're doing. I mean, whatever type of school you're in, you're going to get bored. Whatever type of work you're doing, you're going to get bored. Boredom is a key to finding ways to either prevent that boredom or finding new things to take on in its place. Mostly at AVS, I remembered getting bored when I got older, later when I was near the end of my time at AVS. And my personal way of handling it was going to the main room and striking up conversation with, Larry or any one of my fellow students in the main room, because that's what I think all of us grew to sort of love about AVS, is that during downtime we could just go into that room and converse about anything.
I would say, hell yes, we get bored. But then we have the space to figure out what to do about it. And having that time at all, like the time to be bored, is such a gift. We, have a chance to explore different activities, but also maybe sit around at the main room table and talk for the day. If you're pursuing something at Alpine Valley, it's because you want to be doing it. It's because it's important to you. And that isn't really something you can say, in other educational environments, I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely. Students do get bored at AVS. And I think that's actually one of the most important aspects of the school. Actually, I have a story about this. So when I first joined the school, I was, I think, 6 or 7 years old, and I had my first grade homework to do. And I had back then we did visiting weeks, and I had my visiting week, and I desperately wanted someone to assign me some homework because I had no idea what else I would do. And it was really pretty existential for me. I couldn't handle the idea that there wasn't something more valuable I could be doing with my time, which sounds weird, but that was kind of where I was. So it took me about a week to get to a place where I could find ways to entertain myself, and I could find things that I actually enjoyed doing instead of just feeling like I was meeting someone else's expectations, which was really kind of what I was already going down the path of craving constantly. So in that case, the boredom, people humored me, and they were very willing to sort of help me get through the hurdle of figuring out what I actually wanted to do. They didn't supply, an endless stream of things that I could just do instead of being bored.
I think AVS students do get bored, just like everybody. Yeah, it's really important that they experience it because, thinking back, when I was at AVS, I think some of the best things that I did came out of being bored. I would write a lot, and when I was bored, I would just pick up my journal, my notebook and my pen, and I would just go at it. And, I probably wouldn't have gotten as much writing done if I hadn't been bored sometimes, so it's important. It's super important.
Nearly all of the graduates that you heard from in this episode have been interviewed individually on this show. You can see all of the past podcast episodes by visiting alpinevalley.school.com/podcast. This is episode 32 of the Alpine Valley School podcast. Show notes for this episode are available at alpinevalleySchool.com/podcast/EP32. In the show notes, you can find additional resources on the subject of boredom and its various gifts, as well as ways to incorporate doses of boredom into your own child's life. As always, thanks for listening. I'm Mark Gallivan. This is the Alpine Valley School podcast, and we'll be back again soon with more stories of real learning for real life.